What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing today? My name is Craig Saunders. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to Brother My Brother this August 3rd. We're going to be talking about some things that I think are going to be pretty interesting. So listen, make sure you take this journey with us. The experience begins now.
And now, a word from our proud sponsors. Weekend Radio Structure of the UK International Radio. Proud sponsors Sean Tonk of the UK, England. Tri-City's finest King of the Oldies, Ali Hackett, the Prince of Lovely, and DJ Wells. The international radio station that makes you turn your radio up.
Tell your body how to move and feel. It can serve as meditation, so no need to pop a pill. Satisfies your heart's desires and allows your mind to heal through disturbing. Music tell your body how to move and how to feel. It can serve as meditation, so no need to pop a pill. Satisfies your heart's desires and allows your mind to heal through disturbing.
What's going on once again? Welcome again to Brother My Brother. In this episode, we're going to be talking about unpacking, which is a very timely topic for me because I've recently moved. Actually, I'm still unpacking as we speak. And I think most of us know that can be a pretty challenging situation sometimes. But the unpacking I want to talk about during this broadcast is unpacking the things that challenge us mentally. For me, there are times that I think I need to have everything in order. And when I don't have things in order, my life is in disarray. My life can be chaotic. I just can't seem to get a grip on anything. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. It's only when things are in a certain order that I feel like I can get any kind of traction. But guess what? Life don't work that way. Life is going to throw you things left and right all the time. And the things that we've done, the ways that we handle certain things in our lives are indicators of what we have stored in us, the things that we need to have or we have in us that allow us to cope with the curveballs, the situations, the trials and tribulations that life throws us. If you're not sure what they are, then they're going to dictate what happens. When life throws you a curveball, they're going to be the things that determine how you respond to it. But once you learn what's in you, once you figure out what things drive you, once you've actually opened those doors or opened that closet and begun to unpack some of the things that you stored away in there, you'll begin to understand how and why you do some of the things you do. But more importantly, you'll begin to be able to manage things in a more constructive manner. Now, hopefully you ain't gonna be just hearing from me all day. My brother, my man Jamel is out and about doing his thing, and we hope to be able to have him on very soon. But we're gonna push on as always because again, life throws you a curveball. You gotta roll with it. But let me tell you about this unpacking thing. So I'm actually, like I said, in the process of unpacking. And most people, when you think about moving, it's already a challenge. From the beginning, it's a challenge. You're leaving someplace that you're comfortable with. You're moving to someplace that you may like, but there's some uncertainty there. you have way more things than you ever realized you ever had. I don't know about y'all, but I swear I don't know how I collected half the things that I have in my possession right now. I don't know when they came in. I think they just kind of found their way into my home and just waiting for me to move them to the next home. But you always wind up having way more things than you ever realized. Then you have to go through the process of purging. And purging is key because depending on how you're moving, you might be paying somebody to move. You might be doing it yourself, but either it's going to cost you financially, it's going to cost you, or it's going to cost you in effort. But it's going to cost you if you move more things than you really need to move. And then finally, you get to unpack. Now, for me, that's the most, my most unfavorite part of the whole process. That might seem odd, but to me, it's my least favorite because after I've done all of those other things, after I've gone through the stress of finding a new place, after I've gone through the challenges of trying to face this new environment I'm going to be in, after I've actually completed the move, put forth the effort or put forth the finances to do it, now I'm in a position where I now have to do more work and find new places for these things that I've carried with me all my life. They don't always fit. Let's be honest. They're not always going to fit. It's very seldom that we go from one place to another place that's exactly like that place we just left. Usually it's either we're going to a larger place or we might have to downsize, we're going to a smaller place. But in either situation, the things that you had where you were don't usually fit the way you want them to fit in that new place. So when you're unpacking, now you have to consider. You have to think, you have to question, you have to strategize on how you're doing all of these things that you need to do to get your life back into some sense of order. Because at the end of the day, that's what most of us really want. We want our lives to be in some type of order. We want to, not that we want it to be routine, but we want to have some things that we can count on that are consistent. And the things that we pack up a lot of times, the things that we have packed inside of us, are the things that we've learned how to manage so that our lives can have some kind of consistency. But when you make that move, when we inevitably make that move, now they move with you, and a lot of times they get unpacked unintentionally. If we're not careful, they can govern and reign how we respond to things. So let's talk about some ways that we can unpack. Well, first of all, you might want to identify what it is that you're dealing with. That might be a good start. You can't strategize against something that you don't know what it is. If you're unfamiliar with your adversary, if you're unfamiliar with your challenge, it's going to be very difficult to come up with any kind of strategy that allows you to be effective. I mean, you can do some things, but it doesn't make sense for me to go out shark hunting with a BB gun. I really have to know my environment. I really have to know my circumstance. So it's important for us to understand what it is that we're dealing with that we've packed away. And we have to keep in mind that there's a reason that we pack these things away. That a lot of times is the main thing that wants us to keep it packed up because we don't want to face that reason. It could have been some kind of hurt. There could have been some kind of trauma. There could have been some other issue that is just very unpleasant for us, makes us uncomfortable, gives us anxiety, may even cause us to be depressed. Whatever it is, it's usually not something that's pleasant, which is why we pack those things up in the first place. The problem with it is that a lot of times when we pack these things up, we forget that they're in there until something triggers us and opens up that door and it starts to come out. So we really need to understand what it is that's in there and why we put it in there in the first place. Those are the two key items, or two of the key items rather, that are going to help you come up with a strategy for dealing with a way to properly unpack these things. Let me ask you a question, and I'm going to be very transparent here. I got road rage. I don't know why I have it. I haven't fully unpacked that yet, but I do. That's an issue for me because a lot of times when things happen on the road, I give license or I give power to that thing to trigger that road rage. right? Now, does it happen all the time? No. What things have I done to try to mitigate that? Well, I breathe, number one. Number two, I take a step back and I ask myself a simple question. Do you know why that person did the thing that they did? And then I open my mind up to other options. It doesn't just necessarily have to be that they're being an anal orifice. It doesn't necessarily just mean that they have to be, doing something malicious towards me. They could have a genuine emergency. Maybe they got a call from home and somebody's ill. Maybe they got called into work and they're running late. There could be any number of things that we might consider to be valid reasons that that person did something, but we don't always consider that. So when I give myself a chance to think about it, and then I consider those things, that road rage begins to fade away. So I have learned how to partially manage it, but I'm still working on trying to figure out how I got there in the first place. Again, the key is identifying certain things and then understanding what it is that's prompting you to do it, how it's manifesting within you, so that you can begin to come up with a way to combat it, because it really is a war. The things that, again, that we pack away are the things that have caused us some kind of trauma. And sometimes it might be necessary. It may be necessary to put those things on the shelf for a while just so you can function. I've known people who are functioning with depression. I've known people who are functioning with alcoholism, with drug addiction. I've known people who function with a lot of different trials and tribulations from tragedies or traumas they've experienced in their lives. They kind of come up with a certain scenario that frames out why they're doing the thing they're doing. And then they take that little thing that they package in this nice little box, and they put it in that closet on the shelf. And it stays there usually until something triggers that thing again. The problem again is if they haven't really dealt with the thing that triggered that in the first place, or the thing that caused that in the first place, then every time an outside source triggers that, they're going to fall victim to it. But again, they know a lot of times that they have it, and that's why they took the opportunity to package it up and put it in a box and put it in that closet, because they knew it was something they didn't want to deal with. They knew it was something that could be detrimental. They knew it was something that could be hurtful or harmful. But they may not have come up with a solution to manage it at that moment. So in certain instances, it's a good thing to do. But it doesn't mean that we put it there and we keep it there. At some point, we have to go back and address it. We have to go back and look at that thing that caused us, that we packed away, and try to understand what caused us to put it there in the first place, and then come up with a strategy to figure out how to mitigate it, how to come to some kind of resolve with it. People are so interesting. They're interesting because a lot of times we are the most fearless and powerful entities on the face of the planet. And at other times, the slightest thing can cause us to break down. When you don't understand the things that you've packed away, when you don't realize how much stuff you've put on that shelf, and let's think of it as a shelf. At some, every shelf has a weight limit. So the more stuff that you pack away on these shelves, the more stuff that you don't deal with in the present and put off in this little closet that you've packed away all these other traumas with, at some point that shelf is going to break under the weight of all of these things. And it could be the slightest little thing that causes it to break. And when it breaks, because it's not an if, when it breaks, everything's going to come out at the same time at that point. It won't be unpacked. It'll just be exposed. That exposure is going to leave us raw. It's going to leave us vulnerable. It's going to run us through a whole gamut of emotions that we're probably not going to be able to manage or handle in a constructive way when it all comes out, because it's overwhelming. A lot of times dealing with one or two emotions at a time can be overwhelming. So can you imagine everything that you've packed away in this closet all hitting you at one time? and you trying to manage the emotion of all of that tragedy, all of that trauma, it's not likely it's going to happen. We have to really deal with these things in as timely a manner as possible. Because, like I said, you keep packing stuff on that shelf, at some point it's going to break. Getting back to why I hate unpacking as part of the moving process. Again, it's not easy always to find a place to put that stuff. So I know that when we pack all of these things in this closet, when we pull it out, a lot of times it's not easy for us to just say, okay, it goes here or it fits nicely there, because it doesn't always fit nicely any place. I'm sitting in an office right now that I literally, when I say literally unpacked and set up within the last hour, because I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for this broadcast. Are the situations opportune? Heck no. But do I have the critical things I need to get done what I need to get done? I have my Wi-Fi, I have my lighting, I have my laptop, I have my cameras, I have my internet connection, right? Sometimes that is a strategy that we can use to unpack these things constructively. Not necessarily waiting until we have everything that we believe we need to unpack these things, but understanding the vital things that you need to unpack a thing. A lot of times it doesn't take everything that we want to unpack something. We don't have to wait until the situation is perfect for us to go do something. Sometimes you have to do it in the moment. Sometimes you have to make it up as you go along. But here's the great thing about it. If we can learn to move in the moment, if we can learn to be fluid in those times, even when it's uncomfortable, we begin to get better at it. The anxieties, the frustrations, and all the other challenges that come with doing things without a script or without a plan begin to become a little more manageable, because we've done what? We've taken action. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys remember, I'll share my experience with this. I wasn't always a great swimmer. I know how to swim. I can swim. I do more floating than swimming nowadays, but that's a whole nother story. But I remember the first time I got up on a diving board. And I looked at it, and I looked up and I said, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I looked at some of the other kids and watched them go up and jump off. And I said, okay, let me start going up. And I got about a third of the way up and made the mistake of looking down. I said, yeah, it's not going to happen. It made everybody back down so I could get off that ladder. And I mustered up a little more courage the next time around. And I finally made my way all the way up to the top of that diving board. And when I got to the top, I wanted to turn around, but there were so many people on that ladder waiting that there was no way that I could do it. I was forced at that point to proceed. I was forced to take an action that I really didn't want to take. Here's the great thing about it. I did it. I was anxious as heck the whole time, but once I did it, I gained another level of confidence. I gained confidence in understanding that by taking action, I proved that I could do it. And I proved that I could do it in a way that wouldn't damage or hurt me in any way. And that was really all I needed. The point I'm making is sometimes you have to work through things without a strategy. Sometimes you just have to go, hey, here we are. We're going to pick up the pieces and make the best of it. I might not have, the shelter I want over my head, but I can find some branches and leaves or whatever to give me some kind of shelter from the heat and the rain. I might not have everything I want. I might not have a gourmet dish, but if I need to, I can go, scrounge up something real quick just so I can have some sustenance. It doesn't have to be perfect. And far too many of us are waiting for things to be perfect to deal with the traumas that we have in our life. And because a lot of times these things aren't perfect, we say, I'm not ready to deal with it. I'm going to pack this up and I'm going to put it on this shelf. Well, guess what? I got a secret. Wait. Shh. It's never going to be perfect. Your life might be perfect 0.1% in its entirety. There's always going to be something that can be done differently. There's always going to be something that can be done better. There's always going to be something that you may have wanted to do just a little bit different than how it actually happened. The key is to take action anyway. Put yourself in a position where you have to face these things. And I'm not saying face all of them at the same time, but I'm saying face some of the things that you need to face so that they are more manageable. There's an adage that asks the public, it asks this question: how do you eat an elephant? Again, it asks, how do you eat an elephant? Now, most of us who look at that go, you don't, you can't. It's impossible. But it's not really impossible. The answer that is given is one bite at a time. It's unrealistic to think that in one setting, you're going to take in and conquer one thing. It doesn't always work like that. If it happens, fantastic. But more often than not, it's going to take multiple attempts. More often than not, it's going to take multiple tries and multiple sessions and multiple of whatever that issue is before you can get it to the point where you really want it. I was in general contracting for a good part of my life. And one of the things that I was good at was painting. One of the things I also disliked the most was painting. But I bring that up to say this. There were a lot of times where I could have gotten over on a customer and said, hey, I did this one coat and everything looks good. And I was really talented enough that if I needed to do something in one coat, I could do it in one coat and make it acceptable, make it even look good to the customer. But I knew that that wasn't the correct way to do it. I knew that if I did it that way, I was leaving something undone. I didn't eat that whole elephant. So what did I do? Broke it down into sections. I'm gonna do this room, then I'm gonna do the next room, then I'll do the next room. I'll set my strategy up. Then as those are drying, I'm gonna come back and then do the second coat on the first room, in the next room, and then the following room. I had to parse it out. I had to section it out so that I knew that everything got done, but it didn't overwhelm me. And I understand that a lot of times people tend to get overwhelmed when you look at the big picture. Don't look at the big picture. Focus on a section. That's how you get stuff done. Focus on a section, do your best in that section. Once you've mastered that, then you move on to the next thing. You may be getting good enough that you can focus on a couple of sections at a time and master those things so that you reduce the amount of time that you have to deal with something. But in any situation, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to do the whole of anything with any great sense of accomplishment, with any great sense of mastery, because a lot of times it's just too much for one person to take on. Your feelings can be the same way. Your traumas can be the same way. If you're having something that's going on with you, if you have some things that are bothering you, some things that you've experienced and you just don't feel like you can do alone, call for help. Go to counseling, get some coaching, speak to a trusted, and I emphasize a trusted confidant, because the last thing you want is your business to be out somewhere it doesn't need to be. But you don't have to do the whole thing by yourself. You have options. The problem is when you pack so many things away, you don't even think to look for options because you've put that thing out of mind. You're no longer in a place where you even want to consider dealing with it. If you don't deal with it now, you'll deal with it later. It's kind of like anything you're working towards. If you don't sacrifice now, you'll sacrifice later. You can be young and spend all your money on women, wine, and cars. And then when you're older, you'll be working at Walmart saying, hey, welcome to Walmart. What can I help you find? Or you can do the inverse and make the sacrifices early. Live frugally early. Do the things that you need to do early so that in your later life, you can have something to roll back on. And that's something I want to get back to, having something to fall back on. But before I go into that, let's take a quick commercial break real quick so we can let you know who's helping us pay all these bills. We'll see you in a minute.
I feel like busting loose. I said, Shala, come on, y'all say. I said, Shala, get it, y'all say. I said, Shala, come on, y'all say. I said, Shala, get it, y'all say. Give me the big time.
And once again, we're back. Like I said, guys, there's a lot of times that we need to figure out how we're going to unpack these things in the best way possible. You got to do it a lot of times in sections. You can't just let everything just fall out all at once, which means you can't just continue to pack things away and expect them to not come back at you. We want to make sure that everything that we do, we give it our best effort so that we groom ourselves into how we want to deal with these things going forward. Give an example. How many of y'all, by show of hands, by show of virtual hands, have said, I'm going to work out. I'm going to develop a workout routine. I'm just going to go for it. This one is going to be the one. How many of y'all have done it? Oh, I'm the only one? Okay. All right. We'll use me as an example, right? I do this, or I have done this on a regular basis. And the thing that happens most often is I get motivated. I get enthused about something. And then I get motivated to do it. And I begin to do it. So I got three things in the book. 3 things that I'm knocking out. But then a challenge arises. And I might miss a day. That's okay, because I was doing 3 days a week, so I still got 2 days. Okay. Then I go a little bit further and another challenge arises. Now I've missed 2 days that week. Then I started getting down on myself. Okay. I try to go again. This time I'm like, oh, I'm going on vacation. I'm going to miss it. The point I'm making is this. A lot of the things that we do because we're enthused and motivated from that enthusiasm. But when we fail to be consistent at it, we fail to develop the skills or the habits that are necessary to make it become part of our routine. It's the same way when we're dealing with mental traumas or mental tragedies. If we don't face these things, if we continue to push them off, then we never develop the skills that are necessary to deal with whatever these trials or traumas that are going to come to us. So when one comes, okay, we might be able to brush that off. It's not a big deal. If 2 come, okay, that's going to be a little more challenging. If more than that come, then more often than not, we're going to shut down. And we're going to pack all that stuff away, and we're going to put it on that box that we keep talking about, put it on that shelf. Well, guess what? You can't keep putting stuff on that shelf because you have not developed the tools, the strategies, the processes that are necessary for you to deal with something. How many of y'all heard people say, oh, that's just how I am. I used to say it. I'll be honest. Moment of transparency. I used to say it. You know, I'm a Taurus. That's just how we are. Or, you know, I'm, from this area. That's how we are. You know what I realized that was? That was an excuse. That was an excuse for me to not deal with something I really didn't want to deal with. It was really a missed opportunity, because in not dealing with that thing, I stunted myself from growth. I prevented myself from developing the tools and tactics that are necessary for me to become a more well-rounded person. I kept pushing it off. Just like that diving board incident I talked about, I kept pushing it off. You would be surprised how if you begin to take one step towards the things that you really want to do, just one, and do that one step consistently. Just say, hey, this week I'm going to do this one thing. And then next week I'm going to do this one thing. And then the following week I'm going to do this one thing. If you string enough of those one things along, you will develop a routine. And you'll wind up going, oh, it's Monday at 5 o'clock. Hey, this is my time to do X, Y, and Z. And it will become part of who you are. It will become part of your nature. It will be ingrained in you. It will be a habit. Once it becomes a habit, you can build off that foundation. So now you can say, oh, well, I'm giving 1 hour on Monday. Maybe I can give another hour on Thursday. That's far enough in between. And you consistently do the same thing with Thursdays. So now you've developed 2 days where you really put forth consistently some work, so that you can develop, so that you can begin to improve yourself. Because that's really what this thing is all about. Once we learn how to improve ourselves, once we learn how to really hone the skills that are actually in us, they're in us, they're just undeveloped. Once we have actually learned how to hone those skills to deal with the trials and tribulations and challenges and, whatever else falls out of the sky of life, our lives begin to have this thing called peace. They begin to have this thing called peace because we no longer have to pack things away in its box and put them on a shelf and hope that that shelf doesn't break and they all roll out on us. We begin to have peace because as we learn to deal with conflict and confrontation in a constructive way, there's nothing left that we have to pack away. We've dealt with that thing up front. We don't have to worry about what this person is going to do next. We don't have to worry about what we didn't say. We don't have to worry about any of those little dangling things that were not addressed. We've dealt with it. There's nothing for us to pack up. And what we've also done by consequence is we've taken those steps, taken actions that are necessary for us to develop the skills that are going to give us that confidence that we needed from the very beginning. So the anxieties are reduced. The nervousness is reduced. That feeling of being overwhelmed is all reduced because we now can look at this thing and go, okay, I got it. It's not a big problem. I'm getting some great information that I might have my brother possibly able to jump on this real quick because that's my bro ham and I miss him to death. I enjoy these times we had to be able to bond. So I'm hopefully with the help of our engineer, be able to get him connected with us so we can go ahead and finish out this conversation on a really high note. But while we're getting that stuff situated, listen, we're talking about unpacking. And hey, my brother, what's going on, man? They got you on mute. They got you on mute, man. They got you on mute. Come on. Talk to me.
Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you.
Yeah, man, I had to stop into a restaurant to get some signal so I can call on.
Man, you just hungry. Stop playing with me. You just hungry. Stop playing.
That too. Yeah, man. I'm enjoying the show.
So I'm not sure how much of it you heard already, but we're talking about unpacking some things, man. And I know it's been my pleasure, in the time that we've been knowing one another, to listen to you and actually use a lot of things you say as examples of how to confront and how to deal with things, so I don't have to pack up some of those things and put them away on the shelf.
Yeah.
Just being in your presence, being able to have like this open dialogue with you helps me confront some things that I may not have done on my own. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
But I
Very
want to
much.
know what your take is on how people can best like unpack some of the things that they've packed away because they didn't want to deal with. What kind of strategies, what kind of things that you instituted in your life that have helped you get to a place where you can manage them more constructively instead of letting them manage you.
Uh, One of the things that I employ is a motivation tactic. I make sure to understand that in order for me to get to my desired destination, wherever that may be in life, that I can't get there with all of this baggage. So it helps me to motivate myself to understand that unless I do this work, I cannot enjoy my destination, my desired and destined end. So it motivates me to do the necessary work. We all need to have a motivation tactic. We all need to have a tactic that says, you know what, I see where I want to be. I know what I want to do. I know I know how I want to present myself to the world. And in doing so, because I want to do that, I've got to do this work.
Okay.
I've got to do this work.
So the first thing I heard you say, you said see, which to me means having a vision.
Yes. Yes.
How many people, let me ask you this, how many people do you know that when they get in those moments, they have no vision? They can't see any further than what's right in front of them.
A whole lot of people, man. A whole lot of people, because it sometimes life has a way of blinding you, or the challenges of life have a way of hitting you so hard that it temporarily blinds you to the vision that you have, to the purpose that sits here right in front of your face. But you get so blinded because now you become preoccupied with dealing with the emotions of the impending situation, the emotions. And, that's when we just have to say, you know what, nah, let me slow the moment down, take a step back, breathe, take some time to center yourself, and then approach this situation and let the situation be handled and not you handled by the situation.
That's where that taking that one action step comes in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because without that first step, you never get the confidence to take the second step.
Never, never, man. And you're only going to be as strong as your foundation is. That foundational step means everything, because you don't want to make the step 5 or step 6 and then it crumbles because your foundational step is messed up.
Right.
So
It's amazing how many people, man, just they just and I've done, and I speak from experience, just not being willing to deal with something in the present, just not either having the desire to or not having the ability to, and they just compartmentalize it and put it away somewhere, and they don't even always put it away someplace neat. They just some people just throw it somewhere, so who knows where it's going to land. And unfortunately, a lot of times it lands on other people. That stuff that they're throwing aside lands on other people, and now you're beginning to burden people that love and care about you because you're not taking the steps that are necessary to manage your personal issues, right? And I can't fault them for that, because if I'm being real, it's not like I was born with this ability just to identify and address the things that are challenging. That was something I had to learn over a period of time. I don't know how it's working for you, but I know for me, it took me asking myself why a million times so I could begin to really like understand why I, not why somebody did something to me, but why I was responding the way I was responding, right? What was it for you? How did you get to that point where you became, like you said, centered and were able to build that or lay that foundation so you could launch from where you needed to resolve the issues that lay ahead of you?
I call it slowing down the moment. You know, a lot of times people are trapped in moments, and we make moments eternities. No, slow down the moment. Recognize that you're in the moment, and you have the power to change the moment. You have the power to change the narrative of what's going on. And once we do that, then we'll see that because we are creators and co-creators, our reality forms around what we think, what we believe, what we say, how we manifest. It's us. It comes from us. So therefore, you have to slow down. Just take the time to say, okay, I see what's happening. This is a lot going on. Let me slow the moment down because this is a lot to take in. So I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna dissect this moment, and then I'm gonna say, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's going on, and this is what's going on. Let me handle the biggest problem first. Let me tackle that. And sometimes you might have to do it in reverse because you're overwhelmed at the moment. Let me handle the smallest problem first. You know, and as you do that, you begin to see that you have the power to control and manipulate and work your situation and your issue. You are not stuck in your issue. Your issue is stuck in you.
Mm, mm.
And when you do the cleaning on the inside, the issue on the outside changes. Everything changes. Life is a reflection of what's going on inside of you.
Hey, I hear that. I love that one. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
One of the most profound things I heard people say, somebody say to me, and it was, I'm a fan of counseling. I think it's always great to have somebody that is trained that you can discuss things with, that can give you a different perspective of, seeing things, right? And the one thing that I heard, and I've heard it on multiple occasions regarding emotions, is that an emotion usually has a lifespan of about 20 minutes. And it's only when we begin to feed it that it continues to persist. If we just let whatever happened happen and stop right there and stop doing the well, what if or what did I, or stop asking those incriminating questions, as I like to frame or phrase them or term them rather, then after about 20 minutes, we'll be able to do, like you said, get to a place where we can say, okay, let me prioritize this. Let me really take a step back and see what it is that's going on. Now that the emotion has passed, now that whatever that, the hurt, the anger, the frustration, whatever it is, now that that's passed, now let me think from a rational perspective about what needs to be done, what I can do, and then order it in a way that makes sense. But I'm telling you, that piece about the 20 minutes was a game changer for me. But prior to that, I felt like when I had the emotion, I just had the emotion. You might as well have tattooed it on me, man. I thought I was going to be, just emblazoned with that forever. And that's kind of how I operated. It was the craziest thing, man. So I'm grateful for that information.
The thing about emotion is that emotion is energy in motion. And it's not that the energy just goes away, is that after that 20 minutes, it's channeled somewhere else.
Right.
When you learn how to channel your energy at will, intentionally, then you can begin to manifest intentionally. What is it that you want? You want to do it intentionally. We have to learn the power of intention. We have to learn the power of our will. If I'll give a scripture, Jesus was like, not my will, but thy will be done. You know, and he understood how to manifest the will, and not just the will of God, but the will of his own purpose. Sometimes our will conflicts with the will of our purpose, and we have to begin to say, you know what, I know this is what I want, but I understand that even though I may want it, it's not good for me. So I have to now be responsible and say, okay, I know I want this. This isn't what I'm supposed to have right now, because sometimes it's just not what you're supposed to have right now. Sometimes you're not mature enough to handle it right now.
Right.
Sometimes you're not strong enough to handle it right now. But if you take the time to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on my purpose. I'm going to say, purpose, lead me where I'm supposed to be. And when I get where I'm supposed to be, I can end up having what I want and what I will.
So here's a key question for you, because
Yeah.
I've been one of those people that have struggled with purpose. How do you identify it? Let me offer it in a different way. How do you begin to identify it?
I think you begin to you talk about identifying purpose.
Yes.
What is your bend? Um, as a child, my whole family knew this boy gonna play some piano, some drums. He's gonna do something with music because my bend was towards music. Find out what you're bent towards. What is it that you're actually involved in? You know, what is it that you want to do? And when you do that, you know, you get to see how you can actually maneuver. What is it that you want? You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Oh man.
It's all good. It's all good. Listen, we appreciate the effort, bro. It's all good.
I'm sorry, guys.
No
So
problem. It's all good, man.
when you when you identify what it is that you are, you- your purpose is not hard to detect. What are you? What is it that you do? You like plumbing? Do you like cars? Do you like singing? Do you like writing? Do you enjoy dancing? That's part of your purpose.
Right.
Investigate that, and when you begin to investigate it, you we have so many people that spend time trying to talk us out of our purpose to embrace what they see for us instead of what they see in us. Because what they see in us, they don't understand how it can come to pass and be advantageous to you. So they try to hook you up, whether that's your parents, whether that's your pastor, whether that's politicians. They try to hook you up to what they see, rather what they see what they see for you instead of what they see in you. No, hook me up with what you see in me. If
Right.
me, listen, my mother had to endure many nights of me hitting on pans and pots. My mother and father and my family hitting on pans and pots, singing out of key, playing piano out of key, playing too loud. But you know what? They endured it. They endured it because they understood this is his purpose. This is his bend. Even when my mother was like, when I got to be 15, 16, they know you need a real job. I'm like, real job? This is a real job.
Right.
When you know, when do you not listen to music? When do you not? When is music not a factor? You know, and we had that conversation up until she realized, like, oh, he's really making money from this. You know, so we have to realize that our purpose is right there in front of our face. A lot of times it's in the things that we do, you know, in the things that we enjoy. Whatever is your passion, most times is your purpose.
And I'm glad you broke it down in such a practical manner, because a lot of times people think it's this esoteric thing that we have to just center ourselves and meditate and do all of these things for. And I'm not saying that those things aren't good, but what I'm saying is that I think a lot of us overcomplicate
Yeah,
the identifying something. You know,
yeah,
I love what you said is whatever you lean towards, whatever you've been towards, whatever you're
yeah,
prone to do
yeah,
tends to be your purpose, because that's what you are equipped to do, right?
That's it.
So,
That's it.
so when I hear like your gifts will make room for you, that that makes sense to me because these are the things that I've been gifted with. And if I continue to move in that direction, if I continue to be obedient to the gifts that I've been given, then you're going to put opportunities in my path that help me further solidify this purpose.
Yes, sir.
Does that
Yes,
sound
sir.
about right?
That's exactly right. And when we understand, when we understand those practical points, you know, spiritual without being practical is a bunch of poppycock. It's a bunch of bull crap. It's almost borderline manipulation and can go into manipulation. If you cannot practically tell me what you're talking about spiritually, you need to keep it to yourself. So when you begin to apply those things practically, you see things manifest and it motivates you. We are always motivated by manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And if you're not seeing manifestation where you are, that means that you have to change your position, change your mind. It's okay to have a change of mind. It's okay to say, you know what? This isn't working for me now.
Right.
It might have worked for you yesterday, but it's not working for you now. So
Right.
now find out what the plan is today for the
Yeah.
purpose that you have. That purpose that we have is eternal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're still stuck trying to run 20 years ago plan on today's purpose, you're always going to be behind. Your ministry, your job, your dreams, you're always going to be behind. Every day we need to reevaluate our purpose. And we need to reevaluate how we engage our purpose every day.
So as the seasons change, we might need to adjust how we address that season, but we're still staying true to that purpose.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, you're not going to wear a winter coat in August.
Just saying. I'm just saying. If you do, you might have some other things that are going on that we don't want to be part of.
Oh, no doubt. No question. No question, man.
Well, listen,
So,
man. I want to ask something of you because I had the pleasure of opening up the show today, but we're about to close out because I have some responsibilities. I know you have some as well. So I really like to get a parting thought from you right now because as always, man, I can't big up you enough on the energy and the knowledge that you bring to this thing. So I really want you to close this out strong.
okay. Yo, man, Craig, you don't know, man. I really appreciate you. You really have no idea because your encouraging words a lot of times, I hear them and they empower me to keep going because, uh, when you see a little further than others, sometimes the road can be longer. Uh, and they'll think you're crazy or think you're awful. And then when it starts happening, it's like, oh, he was right. But after all the abuse you've given me along the way, you're right. You saying I'm right means absolutely nothing.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, but what I will say is this: that you laid the perfect foundation, and I'm just coming to reiterate the things that you have said. Maybe just say them in a different way. And you have to confront. You have to, even if you're scared, grab you some courage and take courage with you, and go on anyhow. Because everything in your life is of your making. You and God are co-creators. Everything in your life is of your making. By your choices, by your decisions, by the things that you choose to intake through your eye gate, through your ear gate, through conversation. These are all part of it. So what happens is when we learn how to intake correctly, then our unpacking will be a lot easier.
Mm, mm.
Because some of the stuff that we're unpacking was stuff that was too heavy for us anyway.
Amen.
And now you have to do the work and work extra hard to unpack what was too heavy to be with you anyway.
See, I knew it. I I knew it.
Man,
Happens every time. I knew it.
man, bro. Man, listen. I'm just going off what you gave, what you laid. You laid a great foundation, man.
Listen, as
So,
always, brother, I definitely appreciate the brotherhood. I appreciate just the interaction that we have, the iron sharpening iron, and there's not an interaction that goes by where I don't learn something when I'm with you. So for that, I salute you, man.
yo, man, Craig, I appreciate that, man. And nothing but love for you, brother. Nothing but love.
Absolutely. And on that note, everybody, listen, we're going to call it a day for this particular episode of Brother My Brother. Don't forget to catch us on the replays. Don't forget to like and share because we need to keep this thing going.
Yes,
I need to have many more episodes with this brother across the screen from me right here. All right.
I agree.
And that's going to be dependent on, ain't going to be dependent, but y'all can help. I'll put it that way. With that being said, we love you guys for real. And we'll see you next time on Brother My Brother. Peace.
Definitely. Peace, y'all.
Let the music tell your body how to move and feel. It can serve as medication.